Are we live? I think so. Yes, 4 people are seeing me. So, hello Shubham. Hello Rakesh. Namaste Asim ji. Hello Shantanu from Assam. Okay. Hi Vijay. Hello Prachi. Good afternoon Bishwajit. Hello Sanidhya. Hello Praveen. Hello Kishan. I think about 30 people are there. So let's start. Hello Bharati. And so let's start with what are known as what I will call the properties of light. Now, when we talk about properties of light, there are basically 4 properties of light which everybody knows of or have heard of. First is the color. Good afternoon, Sharad. Good afternoon, Ashish. So, there is color, there is the quantity or the intensity of light, and there is quality, and of course, there is the direction of the light. So, I think I'll just go on to this. So, these are the 4 main properties of light. Now, besides these 4 properties, each of these properties has certain ways in which we can control it in the camera. For example, color or white balance, we normally control this with white balance in the camera, or we can add gels or things like that on the light source itself. So as you can see, the color in the camera, we have got lots of settings for white balance. Some are the preset white balance settings are there. There is custom white balance. There's of course auto. Some cameras also have kelvins. So you can set any one of these and get your colors right. I generally prefer to set it at the custom mode. Then besides this, we have the quantity of light. Now quantity is basically controlled by the aperture, the shutter speed, and the ISO. This everyone knows this right from the start. Okay, these things we control aperture, shutter speed, and all that. So, but the quantity, as you may notice, will change. For example, if there's a cloud which comes, if you're shooting outdoors and there's a cloud which comes in the way, the intensity of light will automatically drop. So you have to open up the aperture by 1 stop. If you saw in the previous shot, it was the aperture was 16. When a cloud came in, you had to probably open it up by a stop. If it is very cloudy, you'd probably have to go to about f8. If it is overcast, probably 5.6. So this is the way we generally control the quantity of light. Now we come to the main point which is there for today, that is the quality of light. Everybody knows when you're shooting in bright sunlight, there is no cloud or anything, you get a nice hard shadow. So this is what we call a hard light source. Remember, the sun is millions of miles away. So for us, though it is several hundred thousand times bigger than the earth, the light is still a slightly very, very small light source. So it becomes like a point light source, because of which we get a sharp shadow. Now, the same quality changes the minute a cloud comes in the way. You'll find that the intensity of the shadow drops and the light becomes much more softer. Same thing, if it is very cloudy, you will find that there is no shadow at all. Many photographers think that this is a very good lighting to shoot in. I personally am not very happy with light which is completely overcast, because there is no direction to that light. So I would probably use some modification and get direction to that light. Now, why do I say I would give direction to the light? Most photographers are happy with putting a flash on top of their cameras and clicking away pictures, and that's the way photography has been done for a long time. However, what is a photographer supposed to do? Well, basically, photographers are supposed to do is we are converting a three-dimensional object and we are recording it on a two-dimensional media. Remember, your sensor is a flat sensor, so it has only X and Y axis. Whereas what we are seeing also has a Z or a Z axis which goes into the depth. Now, how do we create that depth? That is a very, very important question. Now, how have artists done it? Well, if you ask an artist to draw a ball or a sphere of any kind, what they would do is they would do something like this. They'll probably draw a circle, but then a circle by itself does not look like a sphere. When does it start becoming like a sphere? The minute they put shadows in it. So either they'll give a direction to the light, so it's coming from one side, if it is a top light, if it is coming as a backlight, and so on. So depending upon how they place the shadow, we get the feeling of a sphere. Now the same thing, suppose I were to do it with if an artist did it with a ball, I can also do it with a ball. So what I do is I will shoot it. If I shoot a small little billiards ball, you will notice that there are three things which are happening here. One, we have got a highlight. Two, we have got what is known as the mid-tone, that is the actual color of the ball. And we have got something known as the shadow, where no light from the main light is falling, that is the shadow. Okay, so these are the three basic parts of the picture. Whenever you put a light, you are going to get a highlight, you are going to get a mid-tone, and you are going to get a shadow. So if you put a flash directly on top of the camera and you shoot, we get very hard, ugly shadows which go generally behind the subject, because the light is very, very close to the lens. Now, again, what does the quality of light tell us? The quality of light, if you notice here, you will see a round highlight. Why is the the highlight round? It's basically a direct reflection of the light source. So if you see behind me, I have put two types of lights. One is a normal reflector and the other is a softbox. So you will notice that if I use the normal reflector, I'll get a circle. This is going to be a very small highlight and the shadows are going to be pretty dense. The same thing, if I use a softbox or a larger light source, my light source becomes bigger, my highlight becomes bigger, and my shadow becomes much, much lesser. So this is the basic fundamental about lighting which we have to know. Now highlight, remember, it's a direct reflection. So if I am using an umbrella, you will find an image of the umbrella coming here as the highlight. So it's going to be a direct reflection. The shadow area is not going to receive any light from the main light at all. That's why it's creating the shadow. Again, the highlight is going to reveal the kind of surface it is, whether it's a glossy surface. So that's why you are going to get hola, Mr. Manuel. You're going to get a highlight which is very, very smooth. Now this kind of a highlight you will get and it's very useful when you're shooting automobiles and things like that, because this is a very, very smooth highlight. You will notice the highlight is very nice. Now again, these highlights are very good to use if you are shooting products, even shooting people. Wherever there is a shiny surface, this is the kind of lighting to be used. So here we will see the same ball shot with three different lights, and you will notice that the lighting is changing at every stage. depending upon how big is the light source. So let's see this in another fashion. So what has, in a nutshell, again, if I'm using this kind of a light in a studio, I'm going to get a hard shadow. The same thing will happen if I have this light, even if it is a soft box, but if I keep it further away, the light remains hard, because relative to the subject, the light has become much smaller. If I bring the light closer, if I bring the softbox closer, the light becomes bigger compared to the object, and therefore it becomes soft. So again, if I bring the softbox close, you will see that the light is becoming much softer. Now, how do we use this in practical terms? In practical terms, what happens is, notice this particular picture. Here, I have used a normal reflector, the one which is behind me, and I've shot the mannequin. You will notice that the light is a very, very hard light. I've got a clear cut shadow here. Now, how do I change this shadow? Okay, the question is the shadow, if I want to make it deeper or whether I want to make it lighter. So I've got two options. If I put a reflector here in this particular picture, you will notice that I've put a reflector here. The minute I put a reflector, a white, silver, any kind of reflector, you will notice that the shadow have become paler. The shape of the shadow or the kind of lighting has not changed. Only the shadow has become lighter. Same thing if I use a softbox, you will notice that there is a very, very, very dull shadow. The shadow is barely distinguishable. The light is in the same position as it was with the hard light source, but the shadow has now become very soft. But if I want this shadow to become denser, then what do? I do a very simple trick. I put a black reflector. Now this is known as negative fill. So we can do the exact opposite of a reflector, the black reflector can do. So very often you will find that in the market there is something called a 5-in-1 reflector which is available. Most people wonder why there is a black. The black can be used for this kind of a negative fill. As I had shown you in an earlier slide, suppose if there's an overcast day, I can add a black reflector and create some form of a shadow. So this is what we do when we are trying to shoot and create shadows. Now, coming to the most interesting part of the day, how do you go from here to here? This is the biggest question which most people have. Now here, this would be a normal camera. If I shoot with a normal camera, allow the camera metering to work, I would probably get and set an aperture of say around 5.6. This is kind of exposure that I'm getting with no flash. 125 is the general picture. It's a general picture. If I look at it, the picture has come. If I do not look at this picture, the picture is there. But if I'm a pre-wedding photographer, or if I'm a photographer as a professional, I'm wanting to make this picture look better, just notice the difference between this and this. I've added a flash. I've changed the shutter speed from 125 to 1,000th of a second. And I've changed the aperture from 5.6 to 1.8. So this is a very, very simple lens, the 50mm. The 50mm is one of the cheapest lenses you can get in the market, and you can get this kind of a result with it. If you use it on a cropped sensor body, you're going to get a focal length of something around 85mm equivalent. Hello, Ashok. Yeah. So this is what we are ending up getting with the, just a second, I've lost my view for some reason. Yeah. Okay. So again, coming back to this slide, from 1.8. How do I do this without the use of a meter? With a meter, this is very, very easy to do. I can directly get the value from the meter. But if I do not have a meter, then comes the question. Most photographers will wonder how to do it without a meter. So I'm going to give you a very simple 3-step solution. In the first step, take this picture in the AV mode. This is a very simplified trial and error method which I've come in. Do not use any flash. So you probably, why am I shooting in the AV mode? I'm doing a very simple thing. I'm trying to get an aperture of where I'm able to get the background to blur to my liking. So in this particular case, I've got a 1.8. The AV mode has given me a shutter speed of 1/250th of a second. I have not used a flash. Now comes my second part. Now the second part which I have to do is I have to shoot in the TV mode or the shutter speed mode, shutter priority mode. Why do I do this? I'm doing this to find a shutter speed which is going to darken my background. So at 1/640th of a second, my background is dark. In this particular case, I have used a flash. Now, if I want to make the background even darker than this, what do I do? There are two options which I have. A, I can go and change my shutter speed, which I've done here, and change it to 1,000th of a second, or I can increase or decrease the flash power. So both these things can be done. I can adjust the flash power, or I can change my shutter speed and get a darker background. Now this is the hard way of doing it, or what I would say the idiot's way of doing it. Is there an easier way? Of course there is an easier way. So let's look at the easier way. The easier way would be if I use this meter. Now it's a very, very simple thing. This is the meter which I generally use, the L478D. Why am I using the L478D? Well, this is one of the few meters which has some additional functions. It's not the basic meter and it's not the top of the line meter. In the meter, you will see that I can get the aperture, I can get the ISO, and I can get the shutter speed. This is basically the modes with which I can go. It's a touch meter. So if I check my ambient light, which is the light with which we are recording the scene right now, you will find that I'm seeing everything at this particular aperture. So this is my reading which I'm getting. Okay. Just a minute. My screen has gone off for some reason. Let me just get back to my screen. Yeah. Okay. The next thing which I'm going to show you is I'm adding a simple flash. Here I've got the V1, which I'm setting to a very low power. And I'm setting the camera, the meter. What I'm doing with the meter is I'm changing the meter settings to flash. Okay, very simple. So in the flash mode, everyone can probably see this. When I fire, when I take a meter reading, I'm getting a reading of 8.9 or f11. Now this is the interesting part. I'm getting 11, but in the meter, you will notice at the bottom, I have got, it says 90% is the power. So what is 90%? Now here I can change this display and it shows me, I'm not too sure whether it will be very clear on the screen or no, but we are getting a display in which there are two lines. One is the orange line and one is the blue line. So in the blue line is telling me how much is my total exposure, and the orange line tells me my flash exposure, my daylight exposure. So here in this particular case, my daylight exposure or the ambient light exposure is less than the flash exposure. Yeah. So this is the main difference between the two. Now, what happens with the reading? I've got here a percentage which says 90%. The beauty of 90% is I can repeatedly get that reading. So if in future I want to go at 90%, or if I find that my exposure is correct at 60% or 70%, I can keep shooting at 60 or 70%. And I will keep consistently getting the same kind of results all throughout. So whether I'm shooting today, I'm shooting tomorrow, I'm shooting indoors, I'm shooting outdoors, my light will remain consistent as long as I'm keeping this particular value, the percentage value, constant. So this is one of the advantages of using a meter of this kind. We have higher end meters than this also, but this is a fairly cost effective solution for most of your needs, especially if you're doing outdoor shoots and you're doing pre-weddings. So I think I have talked enough now. Let us see if there are any questions. Hi Ramesh, hi Nitin. Good evening everyone. Hello Ashok sir. And good afternoon Mr. Sharad. So far, whatever I have spoken, if you have any issues or if you have not understood anything, I see quite a few angry faces here. So let me see. I do not know why so many people are giving me angry looks. So please explain, any one of you who is there, please give me an answer to the angry look. Yeah. And you can keep asking me questions. I will take the questions now. So let's yeah. Hi Anant, hi Baldev. So as I told you, with a V1 you can do this particular thing. By the way, the shots which I showed you were shot with a V1. So with a V1 you can overpower the sun if you are close enough. So that's the this thing, because this is almost as powerful as an AD200 Pro. And last time somebody had asked me this question, which is the meter to use, and this is one of the best meters to use. So Selvaraj, please, hi. So please, I'm waiting for questions now. I'm taking questions. I hope I'm perfectly audible. Yeah. Deepak Kumar, if I have a very contrasty scene, very high keys and both highlights and shadows to capture with them with flash, what would be the best advice? Again, this meter is one of those few meters which has this particular feature. What you can do is the meter can be programmed. Mark my words, you can program it for the exposure range of your camera. So your dynamic range can be pre-programmed. You have to shoot a certain type of a gray card, and then you can set the contrast values here. So you can definitely get a far better result if you use this. You will know exactly what is your exposure latitude, because normally we get when we read the specifications of in a camera, they will be writing 12 stops, 13 stops, 10 stops. So you know how to use that. Okay, how negative fill can create a shadow in an overcast outdoor condition? Nice question. You have to use 3 or more than 1 basically reflectors, and with those you can block out the light. You basically block the light out. So you can get better. How do I get better depth of field on a day with backlight? Yeah. Okay. Cost of instrument will be told by you can one of the Nikita guys will tell you what is the price of the meter, because I don't know, when I bought it some time back, so I'm not too sure what is the current price. Yeah. How do you get better depth of field? Better depth of field meaning if you want more depth, you have to obviously use a smaller aperture. And if you're on a day backlight, I'm not too sure about. I've not understood your question very clearly. Okay, can we get the results of V1 on like the images you showed? Yes, you can definitely get them. You can get the results. The only advantage which the V1 has is it's got a small little modeling lamp. It's got a round head and it's got these kind of accessories which you can put. But then with the adapter, you can put these on 685 as well. Is V1 better than an AD200 for a wedding? If you're using, see, the V1 is a on-camera flash. Remember, the V1 has got a hot shoe. This makes it, you can mount it on top of the flash, on top of your camera. That is why you can, whereas the AD200 cannot be mounted on top. Okay. How come I say the V1 is as powerful as the AD200 Pro? The guide number of both the flashes is the same. And you can take a meter reading and see it's almost similar. So, Jitendra, that's the answer. Okay. Okay. What is high key and what is low key? High key lighting is basically when the subject is predominantly white or light in color. And low key is when the subject is predominantly dark in color. That means the person is if I'm wearing a black shirt and the background behind me is also black, the whole thing is black, that would make it a predominantly low key scene. The same thing the other way around. I was wearing a white shirt, my background, everything is nice and white, then that would become a high key scene. So that's how we would get a high key or a low key. Welcome. Okay, if I do not have an external meter, will the internal meter help? I just showed you that you can use the internal meter, but you have to take 3 shots. You have to take 1 shot in the aperture priority mode, 1 shot in the shutter priority mode, and then you will have to adjust the flash power or you have to get the result. It's basically what you call a trial and error, but it's a systematic trial and error. Yes, Mr. Vidyarani, you've got a 478D and it helps you with in your jewelry shoot. Definitely it will help you. Yeah. What are the models available in this this meter? See, of this particular meter, there's only one version, the L478D. There are basically 3 Seaconic meter models available. One is the basic model. I think it is the L470, something like that. I'm not too sure about the model numbers. There is one 778 and then there is this one. That is the top of the range, which has got a spot metering as well. Okay, how do you spread light on subjects like face with only and whole body? Yeah, what you can do is, I personally like to use honeycomb grids. So you can use honeycomb grids even on soft boxes. Now a honeycomb grid prevents the spill of light. So it depends. If I'm only lighting my face, I can put a beauty dish with a honeycomb grid and that will come correct. While shooting in HSS directly in sunlight, which area of the scene should I take the meter for? The skin, the sky, or the shadows? Again, nice question. If you want to darken the sky, you will have to basically remember one thing. Your model or your the model's clothes, those are going to be the main thing which you are going to try and highlight. So that should be correctly exposed. The background, whether it is the sky or something, will go be, if it goes darker, it becomes more dramatic. Hi sir, what are the mistakes I should not make for perfect lighting? There is no such thing as perfect lighting, because what may be perfect for you may not be perfect for me. So it depends what is the look you're trying to get. And if you get the look which you're trying to get, you have achieved your lighting. So do we get high key or low key pictures with the help of lights? Obviously, yes. If yes, how? You have to do a proper lighting. For example, with a high key setup, you'll have to light the background separately, you'll have to light the subject separately, and then you can get a proper picture. With the same thing with something like a low key picture, you may have to reduce the light on the background, and then more light will be on the subject. So you'll have to keep that balance in mind. Okay, Ashish Mehta, I have a Nikon D5200 18.5 bus. When I connect my flash with camera, my shutter speed does not increase more than 200. Okay, basically what is happening is you are not being able to get into HSS mode. So you will have to just send me a picture of that of the 5200 what you're connecting. It's basically more of a camera issue. So you have to see that. Is light meter necessary for wedding or pre-wedding? For me, it is necessary, and especially for pre-wedding. In a wedding, you may not get time to do metering. If you spend 15 minutes metering, by that time, the couple will have gone away, and the other person would have already taken the pictures and left. So you will not get a shot. In a pre-wedding, you definitely have more time. So you can, and there you can get much more creative pictures, which is why it would be definitely a useful thing in the pre-wedding shoot. What is the purpose of a light meter? Is it necessary? Again, the same question. If you want to become a professional photographer, yes, it is necessary. Remember, you are paid for taking photographs. You are not paid for Photoshop work. Your post-processing is not paid for. So if somebody sees you taking 5 minutes extra and taking a meter reading and taking a better picture, you are paid for that. You are not paid for half an hour or 1 hour of work which you are doing later in post processing. Okay, is V860 a good light to start off with? Definitely. With X-Pro trigger, yes. Now, what particular aspects are considered to prevent grains for low-key pictures? Remember, whenever you are shooting in the studio, we generally prefer to shoot at ISO 100 or 200. So you are definitely not going to get low grain or noise, basically. I have a V1 flash and I'm thinking of a secondary flash which we should buy for indoor as well as outdoor. If you already have a V1, go for a AD200 Pro. That would make a good kit. Yeah, you should have at least 3 lights, because AD200 Pro, the advantage is that you can use 2 of them together, and there is a special head available. If you combine that, you get 400 watt second light from one single source. So if you're especially doing an outdoor, you want to overpower the sun or something, it's like having a 400 D with you, AD400 with you. Yeah, what is the model number of your light meter? 478D is the Seaconic meter. Yeah. Okay, Ranjit Kumar has answered your question about the Nikon not triggering. So yeah, jewelry shoot against sunlight, furniture shoot, food shoot. Okay. Yeah. I didn't get your question, Mr. Sudhanshu. You've just asked me a question. All these shoots, if you want to use lights for all that, I would probably go for the 8600 Pro, which is behind me. So yeah, let a light setup on these. Yes. Now jewelry shoot against sunlight, furniture shoot, food shoot with flash and ambient light. Now here, each situation is different, I would use soft boxes and a couple of, or maybe 2 3 lights, at least of 400 watt second power. That would be my minimum light setup which I would go for. So you would be looking at something like one main light and two fill lights, or a fill light and a effect light, something like that. So that is basically what is known as the 3-point lighting. So we have to use that. I possess a 685. Is this fine for outdoor shooting? Please compare this with the V1. See, the V1 is the most powerful, I'll say, flash in this particular range. It's more powerful than even the rival brand competitive flashes. There's no doubt about it. If I compare this with even the 865, this is about a third stop more powerful. Though the guide number is the same, this is a little bit more powerful. So pure power, definitely this is more. The 685 is a good flash by itself. There's nothing wrong with it. So if you have it, use it. When the time comes to retire it, or you want to buy a new one, then you buy this. How to get full controls of lights manually? For full controls of my lights manually, you need this guy. Then you need to get a meter, because with this meter you have a very nice feature. This dome goes in. This is known as a retractable dome. When the dome is inside, it will work. It will only measure one specific light. When the dome is out, it measures a combination of all the 2-3 lights. Jitendra Shirpurkar asks, any specific lights and flash for Fuji X-T3? The Godox series works with the X-T3, with the Fuji series. So you would have to just buy the Fuji trigger. Mr. Prakash, you will have to, if you are looking at full manual control of lights, you need a meter. This is a mandatory thing. If you want to do things automatically and everything, you can do it without a meter. Trial and error works. It's not that it doesn't work for so many people, because nowadays when you click a picture, you see the display behind it, so you know that the photograph has come. So trial and error works, but I will again say it works. With this, you are getting into another league, you are getting into another category, and you are getting more precise results, repeatable results, I would say. So that is the advantage of getting a meter. I have a V1 shoot, V1 for outdoor fashion photography. Should I go for a 280 400s, 280 200s and umbrella size for a long distance shot? See, when you are looking at long distance shots, you should go for the 8600 Pro only. In fact, if you are looking at a full length figure, which is about, say, a model with a height of say 5.5 to 5 feet 10 inches model, and you're shooting that model, the light will have to be outside your frame. So that distance is approximately 8 to 9 feet. 7 to 8 feet is what you'll have to put that light at, and you'll have to be putting a softbox on top of it. So once you put a big softbox, even if it's say a 1 meter by 1 meter kind of a softbox, it's going to be a little, the intensity is going to be less. And especially if you want to overpower the sun or something, then you need a powerful light. So for fashion, I would definitely say use the 8600 Pro. What flash would you prefer for wedding stage photography, where we keep f-stop in the range of 9 to 11 for group photos? See, if you are shooting indoors, I would recommend go for the SK400 type of a light. You will get an aperture of f8 of f9 11, that kind of an aperture. If you are shooting outdoors at night, you'll obviously have to go for an 8600 Pro. Okay, what is the difference between the AD200 and the AD200 Pro? the difference is in flash duration. We have answered this question in an earlier episode also, but basically it's the flash duration which is there. The color temperature is different. It's got a slightly better build. I will not say build quality. Color consistency is much more. Is it useful always to be at maximum aperture rather than to adjust the aperture for sharper results? Okay, this is a very nice question. I would prefer the optimal aperture for any lens is somewhere in the mid range. That means a 5.68. That would be the kind of aperture where the lens performs at its best. So ideally you shoot at that kind of an aperture if you want the sharpest picture. But having said that, the lenses are not going to perform poorly or very, very poorly at full open. The corners may be a little may go a little blurred. But then again, when you are shooting wide open, you are as it is blurring the background. So that blurring will not come to that much of a thing. Okay, Jitendra, can you guide me about the softbox and grid? Has a lot of options available. Softbox, yeah. See again, grid for for a softbox is only one. Every manufacturer only makes one grid. You don't get multiple grids for the softbox. Now the softbox size can vary. Now it depends what you are going to shoot. A strip light is a long light which will help you light a subject. Just if you want to light the subject and have the light just feathering across the subject, that is a strip softbox. You are shooting a product or something, you could use a bigger softbox, a rectangular one. The minute you put a honeycomb grid, one of the things which would happen is, if somebody is wearing specs like me, you will find the honeycomb grid pattern comes into the specs. So that is one of the disadvantages of a thing. So the AD200 Pro is the softboxes are dependent upon what you require. It is proportional to the size of the subject you are shooting. So AD200 is AD200 giving the same power as AD400 Pro? Yes. It will be the difference will be 1/10 of a stop plus minus, which is hardly anything. So my studio size is 10 feet by 15 feet. That's about 150 square feet. Suggest a code. See, if you're using it indoors in a studio, the SK400 kit is a very good light to buy. But if you are living in an area where you have power failures, then you should think about buying the ones which are battery operated lights. So that would be my advice to you, Mr. Baldev. So the studio is not a very huge studio. 10 by 15 is just good enough, which is why you can easily do with an SK400 kit. So let's see any more questions. I think I've answered most of them. Okay. Please suggest latest shutter cable, flash, trigger, intervalometer, and allied accessories. See, cable releases and all these things, they are now coming as apps. If your camera is a new generation camera, the app is there. You can use triggering everything from the camera itself, by the app. So it's not necessary to spend extra. For example, with Canon, most of the new cameras work with the Canon app. So you can do quite a few things with the app itself, especially if you've got Wi-Fi in it. Anything about the life of light and battery? See, the life of the battery is of the light and battery. One thing is there. When you buy it officially, You buy it from Nikita, you get a sticker which will be put on the light, and I'm not too sure where it's in this one. So there will be a sticker on the hologram wala sticker hoga. That is the guarantee and warranty. So you can, if anything normally happens to it, you will get repairs and replacements for it. The battery, remember one thing: don't keep the battery inside the flash or light. You have to take it out after use when you're storing it away, and don't let the charge go down to zero. Keep about 25-30% charge in it. Hatim Sardikot says I use the 8200, but sometimes it misfires. Mr. Sardikot, you'll have to check the firmware updation of the trigger. Where is the 1200 watt light used? Oh, 1200 watt light, again, you can use it outdoors. You can use it in the studio where you require more power. So power is something which you initially may think it's so, I might not need that power, but there are situations where you require the power. So yeah, I have a Godox flash which I use with the Sony A7, but sometimes I feel that the ITTL does not work properly. Again, I think Mr. Simon, you'll have to check the firmware upgradation of the trigger and the flash. Both have firmware upgradations which keep coming up, so you have to check that. When using Nikon flash on Godox, you're using an X1R receiver, it won't work TTL. Yes, it will not. You can only use the optical slave in the Nikon flash to fire it. You cannot use it. The wireless will not work because the wireless frequencies are different. It's like a radio station. You cannot get Radio Mirchi on another channel or another frequency. So you'll only get it on one particular frequency. So the Nikon flash is at one frequency, the Godox trigger is at another frequency. But the light from the Godox flash can trigger the Nikon flash optically. Okay, how to update the trigger? Well, there is a separate video by Mr. Neil Bose. You can just Google it and check it out. He has given a in-depth analysis of how to upgrade the firmwares. How to upgrade, and 200, is it good? Yes, definitely. The 200 is a very good flash to use. It depends upon, again, what is your requirement. As such, the 200 is a very, very nice flash to use. So I think I've answered most of the questions. Acha, how do we create more contrast lighting? Okay, how to create more contrast lighting? Again, this is more of a lighting question. You will have to use, I would probably use a honeycomb grid on the softbox so that the light becomes directional, and I will probably use negative fills and things like that and get the exposure correctly. Sir, please explain highlight priority. Do you mean highlight tone priority as in Canon cameras? If that is the thing, the highlight tone priority is nothing but a built-in system which does not allow the highlights to overexpose beyond a certain point. Of course, if your light is at 16 and you are shooting at 1.8, there is no force on highlight priority is going to work with that highlight tone priority. Share YouTube link for the YouTube link. I will have to see. It is there with the Godox thing. Just look for Neil Bose. He's another Godox mentor, so you can find it. I have T6853 TT350 for macro shoots. I use the dome as a diffuser and soften light. How do I get pictures without burns? Okay. Probably your flash power is a little too much. And what you can do with the diffuser also, the light could be still too hard. So you can use something known as butter paper or tracing paper and diffuse the light further. It will prevent the burns a little bit. But from the looks of it, I think you are overexposing the picture. I'll have to see the picture to tell you exactly what is wrong with it. Again, Simon asks, how do we upgrade the firmware? Well, basically, if I'm just going on to this thing, I'll explain it to you in a short way. What happens is you'll have to go on to the Godox website. There are two softwares which you have to download. One is a software with which will allow you access to the software, the system itself, the flashes and triggers. The second is the actual firmware. So it's a two-step process. Now all the flashes have got a USB connection. So you have to go to the USB connection and connect it to your flash, and then the upgradation will happen. Of course, this thing should be, you do not require the battery in it. You can then directly upgrade the firmware. So that is the simple method of doing it via a USB cable. Okay. So I think we've been live for almost an hour. I think we can call it a day. And I hope everybody has liked the session so far. Thank you. Please do share. And also, thank you, everyone. Please do come back on Wednesday. I'm going to be talking about another topic which will be of interest to you. So see you on Wednesday. Bye. So I'm ending the broadcast now.